When we are reading the statement in the examination, we probably tend to forget these minute details. When we are talking about these basic facts, many students say, sir, this is so simple, mentioning about it is Atlantic Ocean on the east and Pacific Ocean on the west. Why are we even reading this? These questions have been repeatedly asked in the preliminary examination, directly or indirectly. Majorly, if you see, gold is found almost in most of the places or the important places. That is why, as I told you, gold mining was done on a very extensive scale in these regions. You fail this examination not because you mark certain difficult questions wrong. You fail this examination because you are not getting the easy questions correct. Hello aspirants, welcome to PW Only IAS. I am here Harpreet Singh with another session from the world mapping. We've already covered Australia and Antarctica, and now we are going to cover North America. Please students, as I had reminded you earlier also, have your A4 sheets along with you. As I am going to explain you the various features, various dimensions related to North America, draw them, mark them, label them. And I am guaranteeing you, if you do them, revise them properly later on also, you will be able to attempt every question that comes from the world mapping. This will also be very useful while you are attempting your mains examination when you have to explain things based on multidimensional features. So let's begin with today's series that is related to the continent of North America. So this is the Telegram account where you can basically find this particular PDF along with a lot of other things related to geography optional, general studies, preparation, and obviously anthropology optional. Let's begin. North America. Now, as you've already done, this is a hand-drawn map in front of you. I had drawn earlier also. Now, we see this huge map over here. Now, if I want to see and understand the various continents, as we had done previously, you will see that you have North America over here, you have South America over here, you have Antarctica over here, you have Africa over here, European part, the Asian part, and the Australian part. Now, based on this map, you can easily identify where your North America basically lies. Now, to better understand that, let's move on to the next. See here. Can you see this particular part in pink? This is your North America. Now, again, the same thing. If I want to analyze what is the exact location of North America, then I will have to see it from the various dimensions. See here. All the parts that are above the equator, that is 0 degree, are basically considered the part of the northern hemisphere. All the parts of the countries that are on the east of the prime meridian are basically considered part of the eastern hemisphere, and those on the west in the western hemisphere. Those countries below the equator are considered the part of the southern hemisphere. So while we were doing Australia and Antarctica, we had also done a similar thing where they basically lie. So if you see the map right now, can we say that yes, this North America is completely in the northern hemisphere? See, this is the equator, this is completely in the northern hemisphere. Can I also say something that it is basically on the western part of the prime meridian? So can I say the location or exact location is northwestern hemisphere? That is why please understand in the examination, when a statement comes regarding the mapping series that North America lies completely in the northern hemisphere, the statement is correct. It lies in the eastern hemisphere, in that time the statement will be wrong. What happens generally is, when we are reading the statement in the examination, we probably tend to forget these minute details. That is why I am writing them on the board so that it is ingrained in your minds. It is in the northwestern hemisphere. So this is the exact location. Now let's move ahead. Now let's see. If you see the various countries, now North America is not one country. There's a very big misconception that many students do. When I say North America, they assume we're talking just about United States of America. No, there are a lot of countries there. So now, first of all, let's see. If I'm taking into consideration with respect to the Northern America, you see there are parts of, again, Greenland over here. Now, Greenland, then you have Canadian part. Then you have the United States of America. Along, you obviously know that Alaska was bought from Russia. So it is also a part of United States. Then you have Mexico. Then obviously you have a lot of Central American countries, which we will be doing when we'll be doing South America. And along with it, you have West Indies and the Cuban islands over here. So this completely makes or a consolidated term, North America. So please do not get confused that North America basically refers to United States. No, it is not. There are other countries also that are present here, right? So quickly, just keep this in mind. Now, these are again very minute details which you already cover when you are in class 6th or 7th. But the thing is that you are basically asked questions from the NCRTs also, and we are not able to at that time comprehend them and mark it wrong. So that is why the problem lies in our revision. So please remember this thing. It is a very important perspective from the mapping. Having done this, we can see Greenland part, Canada, United States, Mexico, West Indies and Cuba, and the Central American countries. It is not just one country, a lot of countries are there, but I've just marked Central America to show that, yes, this is a separate part as a whole. Now, let's move ahead. Okay. Now, some basic information. When we talk about North America, there's certain basic information that you should be knowing. Now, it is the third largest continent after Asia and Africa. Now, this is something that you should remember. In the previous series also when we were doing, we had already listed you how to remember the various continents in order, what is the size of the ocean to remember them in order. So all these things had been done previously also. So similarly, continuing with that, it is the third largest continent after Asia and Africa. If you see the area, it is 24.7 million kilometers square. Now, it is huge. Now, it stretches from Arctic Ocean in the north to Panama in the south. So Arctic Ocean till Panama in the south. So this is a stretch. If you see, you have the Atlantic Ocean on the east and you have the Pacific Ocean in the west. That is what is written here. Atlantic Ocean in the east and Pacific Ocean in the west. So these are certain basic information that you as aspirants preparing for the civil services examination should be aware of. Please remember, when we are talking about these basic facts, many students say, sir, this is so simple, mentioning about it is Atlantic Ocean on the east and Pacific Ocean on the west. Why are we even reading this? I am telling you and guaranteeing you something. The problem that arises in the examination is not that this is so easy or tough. The thing is that under pressure, even the simplest of things, the brain sometimes is not able to comprehend. And then you mark it wrong. Please remember one thing in life, particularly with respect to civil services and more precisely with respect to the preliminary examination. You fail this examination not because you mark certain difficult questions wrong or you get some difficult questions wrong. No. You fail this examinations because you are not getting the easy questions correct. Mark my word. I'm telling you again. If somebody is able to attempt the easy questions properly, those are basically coming from the NCRTs and some books. If you are able to do that also, you'll be able to qualify the prelims. The problem is that you in the process of attempting more, you might be attempting very difficult questions and getting those also wrong and the easy ones also wrong. So please remember, do not get the easy ones wrong. And these are the things which are low-hanging fruits. And that is why I've repeatedly said in all sessions, whether it is anthropology optional, whether it is geography, whether it is society, that you should be very, very particular about this. Move ahead. Moving ahead in this. Now, if I talk about the physical divisions, please understand that the physical divisions over here are very, very important. As we have done with respect to Antarctica, with respect to Australia, while I'll be telling you the physical divisions, I'll be telling you various dimensions now associated with the minerals also and the population also, so that it gives you a comprehensive understanding. Please remember, this classification and this understanding is not only important from the perspective of the civil services examination, but also from the state PCS examinations and other examinations conducted by UPSC. So these are very, very important. Please remember them. Now, when we are doing these things, it is not only that it can be asked in your prelims, but also in the mains examination. Sometimes you are asked with respect to resources. Sometimes you are asked with respect to certain geographical aspects. That time it becomes important that you should know them. Secondly, while I'll be talking to you latest in the Western Cordilleras with respect to Rockies and all, when the physical geography series are going to come from Monday, over there you will be realizing that how these Rockies have basically originated. What are the dimensions and all, we'll be covering them in detail over there. So when you are doing this mapping series, make sure that you cover those videos along with that, right? Let's move ahead. First, physical divisions of North America. First are Western Cordilleras. Second, the Central Lowlands. Third, the Eastern Highlands or the Appalachians. And fourth, the Coastal Plains. Now, please understand, lot of classifications in various books have been given. Some have given six-fold classification, some seven-fold, some three-fold. Now, please make sure you understand this very well. This classification has been picked up from NCERT. Now, you will say from where, which NCERT it has been picked up? But you'll remember, in the old NCERTs, which we say basically, for now the new NCERTs have come, though there were new NCERTs that came up in 2005. But before that also there were certain NCERTs in which chapters of Australia, Antarctica and all were covered. Based on the standard that is given by NCERT, I have picked it up. So please do not contradict that some other classification is given some other book. We are following the standard format which is accepted by the Union Public Service Commission. Let's begin. Now, Western Cordilleras. Before I actually explain you what it is, what Western Cordilleras are, we should understand what Cordillera itself is. Now, see, when I talk about Cordillera, it basically means a system or a group of parallel mountains or mountain ranges, together with intervening plateaus and other features. Now, see, there is a mountain range. Agreed, it is called a range. But along with one range, there is another range, another range, another range. And between these ranges approximately or in intervening, there are plateaus there. Now that collectively is known as a cordillera. That is why if you see, these are Rocky Mountains and there are other set of mountain ranges over here, right? So these are parallel mountain ranges that are running. Between these ranges also you have British Columbian Plateau, you have the Colorado Plateau and all these plateaus are present there. So that means parallel mountain ranges along with the intervening plateaus. We will be seeing the plateau in the later slides also. So the plateaus are also present. So this system as a whole is known as a cordillera. Now it is on the western part of America, so it is known as a Western Cordillera. Clear? So this is known as the Western Cordillera. Now if you see, I've already labeled so many mountain ranges and all, which we will be doing when we cover the topic of mountain ranges. But just for your understanding, you can see it. We'll be doing it in detail, don't worry. You have the Brooks Range over here in Alaska, then followed by Mackenzie Mountains and the Rocky Mountains. Then you have the Alaskan Range here, then the Coast Mountains, Cascade Range, Sierra Nevada. Then you have Lower Californian Range and Western Sierra Nevada. We'll be seeing this, don't worry. So this is basically a cordillera with plateaus between these ranges that are present. So that is why it is said that it means a system of group of parallel mountain ranges together with the intervening plateaus and other features. This is known as cordillera, and lying on the western part of America, it is known as a Western Cordillera. Now, what are the important aspects? See, it runs in the western margin. See, it is running along with the western margin. From Alaska in the north to Panama in the south. So this is the Alaskan region, and to Panama over here. From north to south, this is a stretch. Now formed during the tertiary period. Now period becomes important here, timeline, so that you basically know that these are young fold mountains, right? We will be doing all these young fold, old fold mountains when we will be doing the physical geography series that will be coming next week. So these are formed in the tertiary period. These are not the old mountains as you see in the Appalachians. These are the young fold mountains. Plateaus like Colorado, Mexican Plateau and the Colombian Plateau are present here. We will be seeing the plateaus also. So there you have the Colorado Plateau, Columbia Plateau, you have the Mexican Plateau here. So there are plateaus that are present intervening over here. That is why as a unit it is known as a Western Cordillera. Now having studied this, now see here. Now what I have done is, along with the physical features, I have added the human angle also, minerals also. Why? Because it helps you to understand. Now please understand one thing. When there are plateaus present here, by default they are going to be mineral rich also. Now please see, these regions are very well known for a lot of minerals. Particularly, I'll give you a fact or a trivia. Very often do you see or observe that there's a place known as Las Vegas in Nevada state, right? Now Las Vegas is a hub of gambling, showbiz, different environment altogether. Something that you will not find in any part of the world. But do you analyze how come gambling on large scale, these casinos are present over here? Please understand. Las Vegas as a region earlier was a center before it is what it is turned into now. Before that, it was a region where gold mining was done. So these are the regions where gold and very rare metals and important metals are found. So similarly in Las Vegas or Reno regions in Nevada, a lot of gold was found. Now because of that, people from various parts of the country and even other parts from the European regions also came to America for the gold mining. Now they started doing gold mining on a large scale. Slowly what happened is, again, there are limited resources of gold also. They almost in a way was a state where mines, there was no further gold available. Now the people who had settled there on a large scale started leaving the place. Now imagine slowly what happened, the towns and the cities started converting into ghost towns and cities. Ghost towns and cities basically mean that nobody is there. So what the government decided is, let us transform these places into top tourist destinations and let us allow gambling and these casinos being opened over here. And that is the reason why you see what Las Vegas right now is, because in order to compensate for the loss of the gold or finishing of the gold mines so that they can basically continue with their economic activities. Now this is something that people do not know, but this is the reason behind it, right? So what do we know is still a lot of gold mines are there. Now you will say, have the gold mines completely finished? No. The reason is that sometimes even if the gold is present in various places, it is difficult to mine and not cost effective. So that is why sometimes mining is not done. But overall, if you see, a lot of minerals are basically found here. Now you will see it is rich in copper, gold, silver, molybdenum. So these are important minerals that are found along with other minerals. Now sparse population due to rugged relief. Now if you see, these are the regions where again you have Rocky Mountains, you have plateaus and all. So you will not see very dense population except for certain regions. The population is not very dense because of the topography that is there. Along with it, mining towns are common. Understand, these mining towns have been common since hundreds of years, because these towns were based or established because people were involved in mining activities. Clear? So we have covered the physical as well as a human angle over here so that you are able to correlate with them, right? Now this was the Western Cordillera part. Let's move on to the central lowlands. Now the most important dimension when I talk about central lowlands, please see. This lies between two physical dimensions. This over here you had Western Cordillera. Over here you have the Eastern Highlands or the Appalachians. Between them you have this particular part which is known as the central lowland. How do you again remember it? On the west is the Western Cordillera, on the east are the Eastern Highlands or the Appalachians. Between them are the central lowlands. Now please understand this classification where what basically makes up the central lowland is very debative because various books have mentioned various things. For example, the Canadian Shield is not considered part of the central lowland in certain books, but I am following strictly the NCERT. So that is why it basically mentions that the central lowland comprises three parts. First, the Canadian Shield. Now these are the very old mountains, right? These not mountains, it would be in a simple way, large regions which are composed of very old rocks. Mountains would be a wrong word. So these are basically the Canadian Shields. When we talk about, if we go further south, you will see that there are regions which are basically the Great Plains, like we have the plains of India. Similarly, you have the Great Plains over here. Then below that you have the Mississippi Basin, which is drained by the Mississippi River. That is why it is very fertile. Now you have the grasslands also over here. These Canadian Shields again are made up of the pre-Cambrian crystalline rocks. So that is why these are very stable. These are very old. One of the oldest rocks you can basically find here also. So that is why these are relatively stable places. Okay. Now Canadian Shield, first is, it lies, first of all, central lowland lies between the Western Cordillera and the Eastern Highlands. This is a basic thing we have already done. Second is that this central lowland is divided into three features or three divisions. First is the Canadian Shield, next is the Great Plains, and third is the Mississippi Basin. Let us see the Canadian Shield. Now, ancient pre-Cambrian crystalline rocks around the Hudson Bay. Now, beta, this is the Hudson Bay. Around that, if you see, this is basically the Canadian Shield. Now, because it is pre-Cambrian rock, so it has a lot of minerals also, like in the form of nickel, iron, uranium, gold and copper. Now the soil is thin and it is poor or not so fit for agriculture. Along with it, you already know that the climate over here is very harsh, right? So already the agriculture is not possible over here. So this is the Canadian Shield part. Now let's move on to the next part. Great Plains. Now by the Great Plains, you should already understand this is a region where a lot of agriculture is being done, right? And a lot of production of wheat and all would be done. Now see, south of the shield, that means southern part of the, it lies to the south of the Canadian Shield, extending to Canada, USA and even Mexico. And if you can see here, This is a Canadian part, this is the United States part, and this is the Mexican part. Now, it is world's leading with respect to wheat, maize, and soybean production. Granary of the world. That is why the Great Plains of the North America are known as the granary of the world with respect to the massive production of these wheat, maize, and soybean that they produce. Right? So let's move ahead. Mississippi Basin. Now, Mississippi Basin obviously is very fertile because it is drained by Mississippi-Missouri river system and rich in agriculture, wheat, cotton, again sugarcane, produced at a very efficiently, productively, large productivities, and production is also very high. Highly populated and urbanized region. These regions are, because if you see here, these regions are again along the coastal aspects also, and these regions again have over the time developed also a lot, so a lot of important urban centers are also established over here, so this becomes important from the economic activities perspective also. Now these basically refer to the central lowlands. What are the central lowlands? The Canadian Shield, the Great Plains, and third the Mississippi Basin. So these are the three dimensions of the parts of the central lowland. Now moving ahead, Eastern Highlands. Now see here were the Western Cordilleras, here were the central lowlands. Central lowlands comprise the Canadian Shield, the Great Plains, and the Mississippi Basin. On the east part, this part lies the Appalachian Mountains, or known as the Eastern Highlands. Now these are very old fold mountains, right? Unlike the Rockies, which are young fold that were basically originated during the tertiary period, the Appalachians are the very old fold mountains, and it is not in one phase that they evolved in phases that we will do in the physical geography series, the processes. Along the eastern margin of North America, now these are very old fold mountains, heavily eroded, dissected. You can very well understand from the perspective or correlate when you're studying India. You see the young fold mountains in the form of Himalayas, right? On the other hand, you see mountain ranges like the Aravallis, which are very old fold mountains, and that is why you realize that they are so dissected, so eroded. Similar condition is with Appalachians also if you compare it. So the average height is 900 to 1500 meters. Now, this is something very important. These regions are very rich in the mineral resources. Rich in coal, petroleum, natural gas, iron ore, and limestone. That is why if you realize, lot of industries also established over here. Iron and steel industries, because see the necessary minerals are already available here. So that is why if you see, early centers of industrialization, particularly like Pittsburgh, the steel industry, one of the major centers for the development of United States. So Pittsburgh, the steel industries established here because you had coal, you had iron ore, you had all the necessary requirements of the raw materials that were required. Mining towns and manufacturing hubs were again created. Obviously, these regions later on even transformed to very huge urban centers. That is why the density of population in this region is very, very high. So the region surrounding it, right? The region surrounding over here. So this is the Eastern Highlands or the Appalachians, right? Now the last physical feature or dimension are the coastal plains. Now please understand one thing. There are a lot of debate even when I mention the coastal plain. Why I'm telling you, many people in the comment section are going to comment, sir, why have you just marked this? Now why I have mentioned here is, please understand, NCERT with respect to the coastal plains mentions only this major dimension, even for the extent still here, right? Certain books mention the Arctic coastal plain also here also. Now the NCERT does not mention it. Why I am not mentioning it is, please understand, you know that very well, whatever classification is given by the NCERT is considered standard by the Union Public Service Commission. That is why I am not going to mention what other books are mentioning. If anytime there is a contradiction between one book or the other, I will prefer the NCERT because that is accepted by UPSC. So in the coastal plain, they basically mention about the Atlantic coastal plain as a dimension. Clear? We are not mentioning about the Arctic because certain books over here along the Hudson Bay basically mark this region. Let me make it very clear so that, because many times students do come up with such questions. So certain books have mentioned this region and this region as the Arctic coastal plain, but the NCERT does not mention, so we are not getting into that at all. So the coastal plain over here, now it lies between the Eastern Highlands and the Atlantic Ocean. So Eastern Highlands lie here, the coastal plain, and this is the Atlantic Ocean. So between the Eastern Highlands and the Atlantic Ocean, you have the coastal plain, that is more precisely the Atlantic coastal plain. Now, extensive deltas and swamps are present here. Again, they're very rich with respect to the oil and natural gases. Now, please see, agriculture is also practiced on a large scale over here. Cotton, rice, sugarcane is grown in abundance over here. Major urban centers like New York, Houston, New Orleans are also found here. So that is why these centers are hub of economic activities particularly, right? So very big tourist places, commercial hubs, so are located along these regions. So this is something that you should be aware of and should know. Now, we have done with the physical divisions of North America. Now, as we already always do is, after having done this, we go on to what are the mountain ranges, what are the peaks, what are the lakes and the rivers and all, right? So, though we have done with the mountain ranges also in a way, but still, because we have to do it as a tradition, as we have done in the previous lectures also, so we will be doing over here also. Important mountain ranges. Now, when I was telling you the Western Cordillera or the physical divisions of North America, you've already done or mentioned what are the various mountain ranges. Now, over here, please remember that these questions have been repeatedly asked in the preliminary examination, directly or indirectly. So, you should be very well aware of them. Now, see here, you already know that on the eastern side or the part of the eastern highland are the Appalachian Mountains over here. Now, these are what? The old fold mountains, eroded, dissected 900 to 1500 meters, that is the height. Now, if you move on to the western Cordillera part, these are again very important mountain ranges that are present. If you see Alaska, you have the Brooks Range over here. Following further south lies the Mackenzie Mountains over here. Then you have the Rocky Mountains. These are all what? The young fold, these are the young fold mountains formed during the Tertiary period, right? And further south if you come, there is Eastern Sierra Madre, this in Mexico, and this is the Western Sierra Madre. Just remember, Eastern and Western Sierra Madre. Coming here again, Alaska over here, it is a cordillera because there are parallel mountain ranges. So you have the Alaskan mountains here. If you move further south, you have the coast mountains. Then you have the Cascade Mountains. Then Sierra Nevada. Now, Sierra Nevada is basically in the parts of the Nevada state in the United States. Nevada state is the one which has what? Las Vegas, Reno, all these important places. Even Area 51 and all that you talk about is also present in the Nevada state. Remember that. So you have the Lower California range. Now, these are the important mountain ranges. If you know them, it is more than sufficient for the civil services examination, more than sufficient. Now, I would request again, if you are using a already pre-drawn map or you have bought a booklet of maps from some market and all, if you're marking it, then also it is fine. But I would again request to roughly create a map also. That will also be helpful for you. But if you're using a world map and marking on that, or using a map of North America bought from the market, there is absolutely no problem till the time you revise it. If you're not revising it, then it is of no use. Clear? So we have done with the important mountain ranges that are present over here, right? So let's move ahead. Now comes the important peak. See, what I have done is I have reduced the size of the mountain names that are present. See, whatever names of the mountains are present, I have decreased the font of that and mentioned the important peaks over here. Now, please remember, I have added additional description for the important peaks which you should be aware of. That is why UPSC generally asks these small questions in one of the statements, particularly in the PCS also it is asked. So you should be very well aware. Now, the thing is, among all the mountain peaks, Mount McKinley is the tallest in North America, right? Now, it is the tallest in North America and it is located on the Alaskan mountains, right? So, Alaska, that means it is part of United States of America. Then you on the coast mountains over here, this is Mount Logan. Please understand, let me, if it is not clearly visible, so let me mark it here, this is Mount Logan. This is located on the coast mountain range. Now, this is the tallest peak in Canada because this is the Canadian region, right? Further south, if you come, there is again a Sierra Nevada range. So, in Sierra Nevada, there is a very important peak that is known as Mount Whitney or Whitney. It is basically known as Whitney. So, first is the Mount McKinley, then you have Mount Logan, and then Mount Whitney, that is in Sierra Nevada. Clear? Now, see, let's come to the Rockies now. If you see over here, this mountain on the Mount Rockies, because what happens is they will mention the name of the mountain and they will write the range. Let us say Mount Elbert, they will write Sierra Nevada, or Mount Blanca, they will write Appalachian, and that time you will get confused. So which mountain is present in which peak, that is why it becomes important, and I've drawn that in the particular map also. So this is a Rocky Mountain range. You have Mount Elbert. Now Mount Elbert is the tallest mountain peak in the Rockies, not overall America, because the tallest in North America is Mount McKinley. But in the Rocky range, the tallest is Mount Elbert. This has been asked previously in UPSC also as one of the statements or in the matching column. Further south, there is again important peak which is known as Blanca Peak. You should be aware. This has also been asked. Now, if you come further south, there is this particular mountain range, Eastern Sierra Nevada. Over here, you have this mountain peak, which is known as Pico de Orizaba. Pico de Orizaba. Now, this is the tallest peak in Mexico. Now, you might get confused in the examination that they will write Pico de Orizaba. In front of it, they will write Italy. You will say, yes, it is sounding like an Italian word only. Let us mark it. No, you should not do such types of flukes. So, Pico de Orizaba is the tallest peak in Mexico, located on the Eastern Sierra Madre, which is in Mexico. Now, further, if you move ahead, you have these Appalachians. In the Appalachians, you have this particular mountain peak, which is known as Mount Mitchell. Now, this Mount Mitchell is the tallest peak in the Appalachian mountain range. Clear? If you have done these peaks in North America, you do not have to do any other, because from the cost benefit aspect also, this is more than sufficient, and UPSC does not go beyond that. So this is more than sufficient with respect to the peaks also that you are doing. Similarly, if you are watching my lectures very precisely, categorically and carefully, and drawing and revising them, you will realize that all the mountains, ranges, lakes, rivers, whatever is required, you'll be able to cover them very beautifully and in a very proper and a precise manner. Please understand, many people think that what is the need for doing maps? Remember, close to 4 to 5 questions minimum every year come from the maps. That means close to 10 to 12 marks in your civil services examination, where already the cutoff is going down. Can you understand the importance? Simply doing this 7 classes or lectures of these mapping, if you are out of those 6 questions, if you are able to attempt, let us say 5 questions also, if on an extreme case, let us say 4 questions also, getting that 8 marks extra, does it not help you in qualifying the prelims? That is the most important thing. Please understand that very, very carefully. You have to be careful about gaining that one single mark, how you can avoid getting or making those mistakes. So please do this very seriously. Often a very neglected section. Often people put the photographs from Google in front of you, and that is that becomes difficult to analyze also. I have drawn everything by hand so that you basically are able to comprehend it well and draw it yourself also. That is important, right? Okay. Now comes the major plateaus. Now please understand, when I was talking about Western Cordillera, you remember that I told you that there are a lot of plateaus also present. That is why parallel mountain ranges with intervening plateaus is known as intervening plateaus, and other features are known as a cordillera. So that is why these are the Rockies, these are the other mountain ranges, and along with them you have what? You have these plateaus, right? So I have covered all the important plateaus that are present here. You do not have to go beyond that at all. Now see here. If you see, over here lies the Yukon Plateau. Now this is a rugged plateau, right? Eroded also. This is important from the perspective that, from a human geographical perspective, that gold mining was done on a very extensive scale over here, and even done in today's time also. So it has abundance of gold. That is why this plateau is important. It is very similar when we talk about the plateau regions in India, Chota Nagpur Plateau and all these regions are full of minerals, important minerals. Similarly, if you see in these regions also, these are very important sources of the minerals. If you move little south over here, you have the British Columbian Plateau. Now, British Columbian Plateau again is heavily forested, though mining has been done, and copper, gold and coal is also found over here. Again, majorly if you see, gold is found almost in most of the places are the important places. That is why, as I told you, gold mining was done on a very extensive scale in these regions. So you have forest covers, you have copper, gold, and coal. If you move a little further south, you have the Colombian Plateau or the Columbia Plateau. Now, it is, again, there is a very important river that is flowing on this plateau, that is the Colombian River. Again, it is causing erosion also. Wheat cultivation is done on a large scale. Now, there is a very important dam that is along the Colombian Plateau on the Colombian River. That is the Grand Coulee Dam. Please understand, Grand Coulee Dam is not the largest dam with respect to size, but it is a very important dam with respect to the production of electricity that it does. It is one of the top with respect to the production of electricity. Please remember that. That is why Grand Coulee Dam you should be well aware of, which is located on the Colombian River. Colombian River is basically crossing the Colombian Plateau. You move further south, you have the Colorado Plateau over here. Now, Colorado Plateau is again a very important region. Why? Because you know that a Colorado River is flowing there, and then a very important geographical feature or an erosional feature, that is the Grand Canyon that is present here. So if you want to visit the Grand Canyon, you're going to basically visit the Colorado Plateau, and you will be seeing how Colorado River is cutting across those various plateau and how the features are being formed. So Grand Canyon is present here, Colorado River. Again, over here, important thing is copper, uranium, and coal is also found here. Copper, uranium, and coal is also found here. That is why it becomes really very, very important. So these are the regions which are present. These are the plateaus on the western side. Now, if you come to the eastern side, you will be seeing, again, over here also you have the Mexican Plateau. Now, between the eastern and the western Sierra Madre, you have the Mexican Plateau. Now, this is a high plateau. That means the height is relatively higher. Densely populated region. Along with it, agriculture is practiced around the surrounding region, and silver is also found here. So this is again important characteristics. You have the Ozark Plateau, which is basically on the western side of the Appalachian Mountains. It is a very ancient plateau. It is heavily eroded, but there are lead and zinc as minerals, or important minerals, are basically found here. If I move further south, please understand there are a lot of interpretations. Sometimes certain books mention the Laurentian Plateau as equivalent to Canadian Shield, right? Some say Canadian Shield / Laurentian Plateau. Certain books have mentioned that. But certain books like NCERT have mentioned that Laurentian Plateau is a part of the Canadian Shield as a whole. So I am using that classification. So Laurentian Plateau is over here. It is a Precambrian, again, structure. Nickel, iron, uranium, and gold are found here. Now, these are the most important, or almost on an extensive scale, we have covered almost all the plateaus that are present here, and this is what is required by you for the civil services. Note it down. You can pause the video and note this down. Again, very, very important. Please, I am reminding you one more thing. If you are neglecting the lecture and just waiting from where you can get this PDF and just draw it, I'm telling you, you will be missing on such important things which you can only understand when you are watching the lecture. This is a very big problem that the students face. I'm telling you again, had simply getting the PDF been responsible for you qualifying the civil services, and that is not correct. That is why we always say, at least if whatever the video duration is, 40 minutes, 35 minutes, watch the video. Then try to note it down by seeing that. Obviously, you will get the PDF also, but watch the lecture completely. That is again very important. Having done the major plateaus, let's move ahead. We will consider the major rivers now. See, again, the rivers become important. This river over here, again, please understand, this river is known as the Mackenzie River. This is the longest in Canada. Why I have added these commentaries along with that is because these are the ones which basically UPSC uses. I could have simply mentioned Mackenzie, Yukon, Columbia, Snake, Colorado, and done with it. Why I mention these commentaries? Because these are the points which UPSC basically picks up. And these are the ones which are mentioned in the NCERTs also, the oldest NCERTs in a way. So this Mackenzie is basically the longest river in Canada. You have Yukon. You know the Yukon Plateau also. So Yukon River is basically cutting across the Yukon Plateau. Now it basically drains into the Bering Sea, which is present over here. Then you have the Columbia River. Now the Columbia River again cutting or eroding the Colombian Plateau. Now it has a Grand Coulee Dam, as I already mentioned. It is a very important tributary. It is known as the Snake River. You should always remember. They can ask you, Snake River is a tributary of Colorado. No, it is a tributary of Columbia. Now, again, an important river over here, This is Colorado River. Now this cuts through the Grand Canyon. You already know that. Further, if you move over here, if you realize this is an important river that is known as Rio Grande. Now it flows through the New Mexico and drains into the Gulf of Mexico, that is this region, right? Further, if you come here, this is the river St. Lawrence. This St. Lawrence River basically connects the Great Lakes with the Atlantic Ocean. So important characteristic, this can be asked as a statement also. Now comes the important rivers over here. This is a Missouri, Mississippi basin. Now if you see this river, this complete river, this is a Mississippi River. This is the largest river with respect to volume. This is Missouri River. This is the longest river with respect to length, right, in North America. You have certain other tributaries. This is the Ohio and this is the Tennessee. Now these are again regions where you find lot of coal deposits, iron ore deposits, water is present here. So that is why these regions over here became very, very important hubs for commercial activities, mining towns, and obviously densely populated. Even today also, these regions are very densely populated and centers of economic activities. So these are what the major rivers of the North American region or the continent. Pause the video and note it down. Okay, let's move ahead. Now comes the water bodies. Water bodies. What are the important water bodies around it? Please see. If you see over here, you have the Beaufort Sea, right? That is why if you see over here, Mackenzie River is basically draining around this region only, right? So you have the Beaufort Sea. Over here you have the Bering Sea along with the Alaskan state. This is the Gulf of Alaska. You come further south. This particular region is known as Gulf of California. If you move further over here, this is known as the Gulf of Mexico. Further, this particular region is known as the Hudson Bay. Very important fact. Then, if you come here, you have the Gulf of St. Lawrence over here. And then towards the northeastern part, you have the Labrador Sea. You move further south, you have the Baffin Bay. Now, these are the important water bodies that you should know. Along with that, please remember, you have the Atlantic Ocean over here. You have the Pacific Ocean here. Again, oceans over here, that should also be marked. So please pause the video and quickly note it down. Let's move ahead. Major lakes. Now, these are very important lakes that you should be knowing. Okay, now there's an important lake which is known as the Great Bear Lake. Now, this Great Bear Lake is the largest lake which is entirely in Canada. Please understand this. The Great Lakes also have parts in United States and United States and America, United States and Canada, sorry. But the largest lake which is completely in Canada is Great Bear Lake. Please understand, you can be confused when they ask you that this lake Superior is the largest in Canada. No, because please understand, it is the largest freshwater lake. There is no problem in that, but it has half of it is in United States, half of it is in Canada. So this lake is entirely in Canada. That is why it is the largest entirely in Canada lake. If you move further south, there is a Great Slave Lake. Further south, Great Salt Lake. Now, this is a remnant of a very old lake. That is why the salt content is relatively high over here. That is why it is known as a remnant of a prehistoric lake. Further over here, you have the Lake Chapala. Now, this Lake Chapala in Mexico is the largest freshwater lake in Mexico. You should be aware of this. Now, the Great Lakes. Please understand, this blue color lake is known as Lake Superior. Now, this is the world's largest freshwater lake. Then you have this pink color. This is known as Lake Huron. Red color is known as Lake Ontario. This green color which I have drawn is known as Lake Erie. This purple color is known as Lake Michigan, or Michigan as you say. Now, Michigan is entirely in the United States. It is not in Canada. Other basically share, let us say, have parts in Canada. Lake Erie is the shallowest and the warmest. How do you remember it? Shoe, M. Superior, Huron, Ontario, Erie, Michigan. Shoe, E. Or Shoe, M in a way. can be a mnemonic through which you can basically remember it. Okay, so these are the important or the major lakes that you find basically in North America. Let's move ahead. Please and pause the video and note it down quickly. Okay. Climatic zones. Now we will be considering or describing the climatic zones in detail, generally from the world perspective when we do climatology in the World Geography series. But over here, just for your knowledge, this is the polar zone. Again, most of the time it is covered with snow cover, very low temperatures, and the life is very difficult over here. That is why in Canada, if you see, though Canada is such a huge country, there are very less habitable zones that are present there, or habitable regions. That is why in spite of having such a large area, it is very difficult to survive in Canada. Then you have the cold zone over here, relatively lesser temperature, though obviously there is snowfall during the winter months. Then you have the temperate zone over here and here. Then you have the desert zone over here, and finally the tropical zone over here. Please understand the complete of North America lies in the northern hemisphere, but again, this lies relatively closer to the equator, relatively in comparison to the other countries. So that is why it has experiences somewhat like a tropical zone or tropical climate, not completely, but somewhat. So these are the various climatic zones that are present in North America: the polar, the cold, the temperate, the desert, the tropical, right? Now let's move on to the next part, that is the biomes. We will be considering in detail everything when we will doing the biogeographical part of the physical geography. Now see here. Now this is the tundra region. Further below that lies your taiga region. On the western part lies the temperate rainforest. This region are the grasslands that are present over here. Again, that have been commercialized for production of wheat and all. Then you have the temperate deciduous forest here. And this is the desert region that is present, and further south lies your tropical rainforest region. So these are the various biomes that are present in North American continent, right? Please note it down. Okay. So this was the session of the mapping with respect to the North American continent. We have covered all the dimensions. We had covered the human geography angle also while we were covering the physical divisions or the dimensions. That basically help you to understand how the physical geography is related to the human geography. We have covered the climatic zones, biomes and all, vegetation. So we have covered it comprehensively. This is what is required for your civil services examination. If you cover them, repeatedly revise them, I am telling you again, there will be not a single question that you will find difficulty with respect to mapping, provided you do it well and revise it well. There might be one or two bouncers that happen, again leave that. Your effort should be to maximize your attempt, and that is correct attempts, right? And that can be done if you do these things well. So again, we will be coming with the next continent, that is South America, next week. So please revise it, draw it yourself, label it, and you will see for yourself the change with respect to this particular mapping series that is bringing in you. Along with it, we will be coming with the physical geography series next week, and which will be very helpful for you, which will complement you along with this mapping series. So whatever questions that remain will be answered there in the form of, let us say, if you have Appalachians, you have Rockies, how are they created? What has plate tectonics got to do with it? All these things will be covered over there. So please see those geography series along with these mapping series together. God bless you. Take care. Lots of love from my side, and Jai Hind.